Hey guys, this is Cayley. I am back with another What Sold from last week video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my sales that are happening right now on eBay and Poshmark. Plus, we'll do a deep dive into some of the individual items that I'm selling and talk about why they sold, for how much they did, and how long they took to sell. Before we dive into those numbers, I just gotta say that this would absolutely not be possible without the help of List Perfectly. If you guys have never heard of List Perfectly, they are a cross-posting tool. They basically make it so super simple for you to take all of your items on one platform and get that information moved over to another platform. Having your items on multiple platforms allows for many eyes on the same product and increases the likelihood of a sale. And that is why you see me having a ton of sales on both platforms. I absolutely love List Perfectly. It saves me so much time in my business. They have come out with a lot of really cool new tools, but one of the things that I find most interesting is their new AI listing helper. In seconds, the new AI listing feature can take information from just your photos and create your listing for you. Plus, depending on the plan that you have, I have the highest plan available. You will have access to the auto delist feature, which takes items down when it sells on a platform. That has been a huge game changer for me. It's basically like having a virtual assistant. It has saved me so much time. Whether you're interested in using them for their most basic features all the way up to their most advanced, they have something for you. And in today's video, I am so excited to be doing a giveaway of a free month of List Perfectly. If you're interested in trying out a free month of List Perfectly, all you need to do is make sure you're subscribed to my channel, subscribe to the List Perfectly channel, and drop a comment down below about which platform you are most interested in potentially cross-posting to. And if you're already a List Perfectly member, you can still enter the giveaway and just get a free month of List Perfectly. Just comment down below what your favorite platform is to sell on. And if you guys don't want to wait for the giveaway, if you're my kind of people and you just want to get in there and start cross-posting, I'm going to have a link down below in case you missed the giveaway for a discount off of your first month of List Perfectly. So link, coupon code, and giveaway details are all going to be down below in the description box. And thank you to List Perfectly for being a constant supporter of my business. All right, now into the sales.
All right, you guys, so all the sales that we're talking about today happened between August 25th through the 31st. I am trying my best to catch up on the What Sold videos since we took a trip to Nashville, and hopefully I will be caught back up soon, but didn't want to miss some weeks because we did have some really great sales that I wanted to share with you. I'm going to go pretty quickly and see how many What Sold videos I can get filmed today. In total, I sold 420 items, which is quite a bit of items for us. I actually ran a sale where I was trying to flush out not only older inventory, but going out of season inventory. So a lot of items were captured in that sale, which is, why we sold so much. It's also why our average sale price is a lot lower than it typically is. Gross item sales, I sold just over $10,000, which is still amazing, still going strong with sales. And even with, the lower prices, highly recommend as we move towards Q4, things can get a little crazy as far as the amount that you have to do, the amount that you're selling, the amount that you're listing. And so if you want to just prepare for it, flushing out inventory, whether it's old or ones, again, that are potentially about to be out of season, is a good idea to just kind of set a fresh foundation for Q4. So that is what I am currently doing, and you'll probably see that reflected over the next couple weeks of What Sold videos. All right, so my average item sale price in total was around $24. Again, much lower than normal. That was due to the sale. We sold 261 on eBay, 159 on Poshmark. Average item sale price on eBay was around $28, and then it was around $18 on Poshmark. Let's dive into these sales. I pulled some of our full price sales for you guys to see today. This first one is a brand that I took a chance on. I have never heard of this brand before. It is Umber and Ochre. I took a chance on it because when I looked up comps, the sell-through rate was actually pretty horrible on this brand. However, the few that had sold for quite a bit. And so we took a little bit of a risk picking this up. I got it because it was a shirt dress, a long sleeve shirt dress, and I thought that I had a substantial enough piece that it might pull the sale through. We listed this in January. We've since dropped the price. It has taken a really long time to sell. It ultimately ended up selling for a dropped price of around $73, which selling in less than a year for $73 on a risk item, I think is fantastic. Would I pick this brand up again? I think probably not. It doesn't really fit my business model, but it was fun to take the risk and see how it would pan out. And if you're someone who prefers the longer tail items, this might be a brand that you want to look for. All right, next up, this is one of my favorite categories to sell in. It is blazers, particularly men's blazers. J. Crew is a fantastic brand to look for men's blazers for. Just about any of their men's blazers do well. This is a particular style called Ludlow, and it is one of their most popular pieces in men's J. Crew items. So I always pick it up. Great sell-through rate and great comps. This one was blue as well, so I think that helped to increase the value in suiting stuff. Blue, navy blue is probably the most popular color, so it sells for more money and typically for higher prices. We picked this up for $3.99, and it did sell for a full asking price for $65, and this one took about a month to sell. Next up, this was a factor stacking piece. This is the brand Talbot's. We are very cautious with picking up really any kind of mall brand. It's got to have a lot of factors, or it has to really fit a trending style aesthetic. But we do really like picking up Talbot's plus size tops. I know this isn't a top, but we took a risk because even though it's not a top, it's kind of adjacent, right? It is a size 3X. It's a substantial piece, and we took a risk picking it up at the bins, tested it out, and it did pay off. So now we're going to continue looking for Talbot's outerwear in plus sizes. This is a down puffer coat, longer length, and it was fur trim, so that also helped to add value. Like I said, this one we got at the bins, and this one took, looks like, about a month to sell for full asking price $60. So definitely keep your eye out for some of the coats. Even if you're at the bins, I know a lot of people pass on them simply because they're heavier, but puffer coats can be a great one to pick up because they're typically not as heavy. Next up, this is a brand that I had never found before, and recently through wholesale, we've been able to sell a couple of these. So I'm starting to get to know this brand. This is a Bolo brand, however, it is more long tail, so just something to keep in mind. It is Shoshana, and I think they're mostly known for their dresses. This one unfortunately did have a couple of issues, so we priced a little lower than we probably would have if it didn't have those issues, but it was a beautiful silk floral dress. Gorgeous piece, yeah. Shoshana, 100% silk. Really, really nice piece. Listed this one for $80, and it sold on an offer to watcher for $68. This one did take several months to sell, but I am happy with the return on investment. Next up, this is an Anthropologie piece, which I have been more careful with Anthropologie lately, but we picked this one up because it was cashmere anything right now with no holes. Like if it's, you know, the price is right, cost of goods wise, then we are picking it up because they usually sell for at least $25 pre-owned. But then when you add on top of it a desirable brand like Anthropologie is, you're looking at more money. This one we paid $9.54. We listed it for $60. It sold for our full asking price. And let's see, this one actually only took 5 days to sell. So really quick flip, Anthropologie cashmere pieces. This next one we did pay up for, just relatively speaking, according to the price point, but it was a decently quick flip, and it is a good brand to look for. This is Gustin. This men's brand is pretty trendy, so keep your eye out for it. This is a men's pullover hooded sweatshirt. There was some sun fading, and I don't think it was manufactured that way. I know the item has, a little bit of a faded look, but there was a little bit more than that. So we made sure to include that and include that in the price as well. So this was $20 into $60. Again, a relatively quick flip within just a couple of months. And happy with that. It is definitely a brand I would be on the lookout for. Next up, another puffer coat. This is a women's down quilted puffer coat by the brand REI. REI is not typically a brand that I seek after. However, in fall and winter, their puffer real down jackets do bring a lot of money. I have sold some for over $100 before, pre-owned. So it really just depends on what the item is. This one was a more, I would say plain one. It's not like longer length. It doesn't have a hood or anything like that. But it was $6.50 down. I listed this one for $50 and it did sell for our full asking price. And this one only took a couple of weeks to sell. Very on trend for the season. Keep your eye out for the puffer coats. Again, especially at the bins, I definitely think this is something people would pass on just because it is REI, but really great profits for fall and winter. All right, this is another dress. This is a new-ish brand to me. It is Retrolicious. A lot of these kind of pin-up style, goth style, retro style, plus size dress brands perform very well for me. So I really like getting it. It is a niche that, again, just performs well for me. I've had some experience with it, so I am willing to pay up for it. I paid $8 for this dress. It was a bird print Retrolicious size 2X dress, and the bird print really sold it for me in combination with the plus size. I listed this for $40. It did sell for our full asking price, and this actually sold the exact same day that we got it listed. So did I price it too low, or was it just the right place at the right time? Next up, this is somewhat of a style-based sale. This is Ralph Lauren, which I do like picking up this brand. We typically only get their plus size pieces in the women's department unless they fall into one of their aesthetic categories that they are known for, like Western, Southwestern, Aztec, or Equestrian, which is what this one is. Because of these buckles right here and the denim, we decided to market this as Equestrian, and I'm glad I did. It sold really well. We listed this for $40. It sold for our full asking price, and it only took a couple of days to sell. Another style-based flip, this is the brand The Limited, which actually does perform pretty well in their vintage Y2K pieces. This is very on trend, baby doll tops, Y2K baby doll tops, crazy trendy right now. You can see 15 people had this in their cart at the time that it sold, and I only had it listed for a couple of weeks. It sold within a couple of weeks, so definitely keep your eye out for it. The different embellishments that might be on it are definitely going to increase value. I actually listed this one at $50 and was confident that I could get that for this item. However, this particular item did get captured in that small sale that we had for 35% off. So that's why it sold for a little less, but still amazing profits for a tank top, right? So I listed this for $50. It sold on our 35% off sale for $32.42. And like I said, it only took a couple of weeks to sell. You guys might recognize this style-based pickup. I picked this up on a day where I wasn't finding a ton of bolos, so I, reverted my focus to style-based pickups at the thrift store. And I shared that haul with you guys. So I have sold many of those pieces from that video, but this is one that kind of it hung on a little bit, and I think it's because I picked up a fleece jacket in the middle of summer. So this item also got captured along that 35% off sale. It's Boulder Creek. It's not a brand I would memorize, but this is a men's shirt jacket. It was a larger size, and it obviously has a very Southwestern Aztec-y print on the fleece. I thought it was a perfect factor stacking style-based pickup. We listed this for $40. I think it would have probably sold between $30 and $35 now that we're in the right season. But like I said, it did get captured on that 35% off sale, so it ended up selling for about $26. Next up, this is a brand that used to be a huge bolo in anything. It, for at least for me, is no longer. It is the Mountain. I only pick up the Mountain if it is like a men's larger size and or it has a specific like pattern to it. Typically wolves do very well for me. So this was a wolf shirt. I listed this for $28 and I believe it sold on an offer to watcher for $25. But yeah, really quick flips and, you know, $5 or less, especially at the bins. And this was a super quick flip. Next up, this is a Frank and Eileen women's item. I absolutely would pick up Frank and Eileen every single time. One thing I do like about this brand is it can fly under the radar. You can see that the brand label on this has faded a little bit, so I think that's why nobody knew what it was, but I could definitely tell it was Frank and Eileen. I got this, I believe, at a Goodwill grand opening and found it in the dress section. And again, their pieces fly under the radar because they do tend to be pretty plain looking. They're most known for their button-down shirts, but they do make some other pieces, and if you're not paying attention, you would absolutely miss it. So this was called the Frank and Eileen Ella Easiest Funnel Neck Sweater Dress. I listed this for $150. It did sell for full asking price, and it sold within just 2 weeks of getting listed. Next up, this is an item I had been sitting on since January, which, by the way, if you sell vintage t-shirts, it's just a longer tail item. Like, it just is. Things that are listed for tons of money, people are just going to take longer to make decisions on because they're spending so much. So I do love selling vintage shirts. However, I do keep in mind that if I'm sitting on it for too long, I tend to drop the price or accept lower offers. So this was a vintage Iron Maiden shirt. I definitely could have waited, you know, maybe another year and gotten way more money for it, but ultimately it ended up selling on an offer that I accepted of $140 to get it moving. And you'll see with a lot of our vintage t-shirts, or even sometimes other things, sometimes we'll create a collage for the cover photo like you see here, so that way they can see the front and the back. Maybe something you want to consider for your listings. But yeah, we sold this for $140. It did take about 8 months to sell. Next up, this is a Free People item, and I think we all know that Free People at this point is kind of oversaturated. It really depends on the piece you get. I try to stick to more substantial pieces or size large and up in general, but there are certain styles that can perform well. I would consider this a more substantial piece because it's a maxi dress, and it was just very, very on trend. This just the silhouette of the dress was very trendy paired with the white. I listed this for $90. It was a very trendy piece. It did sell for our full asking price, excuse me, and it sold within about a month of getting listed. Next up, another very, very trendy item. This one took 10 days to sell. It's a pair of Doc Martens. I actually went back and forth on whether I was going to get these or not. I paid up $20 for them. And the reason I wasn't sure was because they were a women's size 4, which is super small. You can see they kind of almost look like kids' shoes. So for that reason, I kind of went back and forth with it. I am glad I took the risk just because, you know, obviously Doc Martens, especially vintage Doc Martens like these are super on trend. And I just made sure to include the size in my comp search, and then I felt a little bit more confident in it. So I paid $20 for these. They did sell for my full asking price of $80, and they only took 2 weeks to sell. So I am glad I took that risk, and something you might want to think about as you're doing your comp searches. If you have something that potentially could significantly decrease the value, you want to include that as you are searching. All right, last one on eBay before we hop on over to the Better Price Poshmark sales. This is another one that I paid up for, $20. It is a Gunny Sacks dress. I wanted to show this one because this is not typical Gunny Sacks. Usually it's like the prairie dresses, right? Those are the bolos that people are looking for. But this one I thought was still very on trend, just with the like coquette aesthetic. And it was shorter length, so risky. But I am glad we took the risk. We paid $20, we listed for $75. We would have listed it for much higher, but it did have quite a few flaws. It did end up selling for our full asking price of $75. And let's see here. This one took about a month and a half to sell, which is actually pretty quick for a Gunny Sacks piece. All right, moving on to the Poshmark sales. Like I said, a lot of stuff was flushed out both on eBay and Poshmark, so a lot of the pieces that sold this week were on a sale. However, I did have some full price stuff as well. This is one of my favorite brands to pick up still. I do not have any trouble moving XCVI. They're kind of like log and look grunge, if I had to put, a word on it. These are a pair of cargo pants with lots of interesting details. They fill into many different categories like gorpcore, streetwear, hiking, also log and look, which we didn't even include in here. So these cargo pants, women's size large, sold for $35. And I would say in general, I'm able to get anywhere from 25 to 35 is like my average sale price with XCVI, but some pieces go a little bit higher. All right, next up, this is a designer brand in swimwear, which I found really interesting, is still selling, towards the end of August when people are buying colder weather stuff. So the brand is Paper London. We took a little bit of a risk with this one just because it was new with tags. You can see it retailed for quite a bit. Really interesting piece. You can tell it's definitely designer swimwear because it's simply not practical at all, the swimsuit. And I am happy we got it. It ended up selling for an offer of $70, which I thought was pretty amazing for a swimsuit during this time of the year. This is a category I'm going to be leaning heavily into for fall and winter because it always performs well for me. It is pajamas. As the weather starts to turn into colder weather, a lot of people focus on being cozy. So pajamas can be a really great section to look for. And this is a newer brand to me that performs pretty well as far as comps go. It is Pine Cone Hill. So keep your eye out for it. This set of pre-owned pajamas sold for $38 on Poshmark. Next up, another Free People item. I mentioned again, more substantial pieces or size large and up in Free People is generally what I'm looking for. Their sweaters I would consider a more substantial piece and tend to do pretty well for us. This is also a size large and it sold for $36. Here's another pair of chunky shoes, very similar to the Doc Martens, although it didn't have the brand to carry the price really far up. These were called Jazzberry. I'd never actually heard of this brand before, but brand did not matter. They were a pair of vintage Y2K, chunky kind of platform shoes. I sell these all day long, regardless of brand, for about $40 to $60, sometimes more, depending on the style. These ones sold pretty quickly at $50. All right, next up, this is a polo by Ralph Lauren. I do like selling men's Ralph Lauren. I definitely do not pick up everything. I try to focus on, per usual, more substantial pieces, larger sizes, things like that. But one thing I do know about Polo Ralph Lauren is that their corduroy pieces in the men's department definitely adds a lot of value. So this is a men's corduroy button-up shirt. I think we listed for around $40 and accepted an offer of $31. This brand, I told you, I'm still just trying to figure out my flow with this brand. It's been about a year now and I'm still figuring it out, but COS or COS, which is put out by H&M. It's like their higher line. A lot of their stuff is still performing well for us. This was a new with tag item. However, it did have a flaw, so it was like new with defects. It sold for $34, and it is just a plain cropped t-shirt. Next up, this is also a newer brand to me. Fantastic sell-through rate and average sale prices in the men's department. It is Oral Bar Brown. This is just a men's t-shirt, which I love. You guys know if you've been here for a while, I love like higher ASP t-shirt sales because they're so easy to list. But this is a fantastic brand to look for. We sold this, I think, for our full asking price of $50 for this pre-owned t-shirt. Next up, this is Betsey Johnson. There are not a lot of brands that you can say if you find them vintage are like Bolo vintage brands, but you can definitely say that with Betsey Johnson. So anytime I come across a vintage label Betsey Johnson, I almost always get it. This one is a mini skirt, and mini skirts, like, just not a category that ever performs well for me, but in a vintage Betsey Johnson piece it can definitely do well. So this is one I think would fly under the radar at the thrift store for sure. Little embroidery at the bottom, but I mean, to me, no offense to anybody that loves Betsey Johnson, but like, this looks to me like Talbots could put this out. So again, something that could fly under the radar if you're not looking at the label. This mini skirt pre-owned sold for $75, which is pretty crazy. Next up, horrible photos here. I think we had some lighting issues. I know a couple of you have asked me about that in the comments. Sometimes we still experience lighting issues like this with darker colors. This is the brand Reformation. I do not know what was going on with our phones that day, but we should have retaken these photos. Even with the terrible photos, we still sold this item for $100, which I think is pretty crazy. But Reformation is absolutely a brand I get in just about anything. Very trendy. They put out some really trendy pieces. This one was called the Lorelei mini dress in a size 12, which I think also helped to up the value. And like I said, this sold for $100. And last one, similar to the pajamas category, the intimate section, which at least in my thrift stores tends to be intermixed. So like the bras are mixed in with the pajamas and the robes and all of that. So one and the same in my opinion, but in this section, bras can also be a category to look for. They get overlooked frequently by resellers. So I like going to the bra section, and I was able to find this Lululemon women's bra. It was called the Run Times sports bra, and it sold pre-owned for $30, and this was so easy to list. So definitely, again, a category worth looking into.
Alright guys, so that's it for what sold last week. I hope that you all enjoyed watching. If you're not already, consider subscribing down below, and don't forget about that giveaway. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.